Right then, so I go to here. So I'm going to hit go, and here we are. Let's go. Everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk number 256. We're recording today live on Wednesday, the 22nd of February, 2012. My name's Nick Batt. I'm editor of SonicState.com. Here we are in our new studio. In fact, you can see, if I use that finger there, I've just put up some new trussing. You won't be able to see because I'm not sending video back to the participants, but I've got some trussing up there, which I've very cunningly made out of a two-part ladder rather than out of really expensive truss, which costs a fortune and doesn't come in the length that we need. So I'm very pleased. I'm feeling kind of replete and all DIY-tastic. So anyway, I want to say hello and welcome to our guest. We've got a fulsome chat room this week, which is always nice to see. Our amazing turbo brain, as we say. There they go, flying past in their comments. And I want to say thank you to them because they always help us out. And the show adds an extra frisson knowing that there are people actually listening to what we're saying as we're saying it. Don't know about you. It just does for me. That first little chuckle there you heard was Gaz Williams. Gaz from songsurgeon.co.uk, our resident Welsh record producer based in Bristol, and also co-host of Sonic Touch, our iPad show, which we're hoping to shoot the first episode of the new in the new studio here tomorrow. So we'll see more of Gaz. So anyway, glad you made it, Gaz.
Good great. Thank you. We've got a special episode planned for tomorrow, haven't we?
Yes, I do hope so. I've still got a little bit of preparation to do myself. I'm working on it. It's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
So how have you been? There was a bit of pre-show. You were talking a little bit about the eggs. You've got a pair of Monroe, SE Electronics Monroe eggs in, right?
Yeah, they're here on trial basis, which SE are offering for anyone who's interested. And that's quite good fun because you can A/B between your monitors, your current monitors and them, and it's very revealing when you do that. I've got Genelec monitors here, which I've had for a number of years, and I really like. But when you compare them directly against the eggs, you get a real sense of just how much cabinet resonance affects the sound you're hearing, and the eggs are remarkably open.
Sorry, I've just done that classic thing where I didn't press record on the audio recorder, but it's okay. I think we can. I've got it on the other one. So anyway, sorry about that. My massive distraction. I knew there's something every week I seem to get wrong, but the stream seems to be holding up. Well, I know that because PJ's got some as well, and perhaps you can compare notes a little bit later. But we'll say hello to PJ Tracy from PJTracySound.com. PJ's our resident composer, Emmy-winning composer and studio owner, currently in the middle of a studio fit. So, I imagine PJ might be a little distracted as well, thinking about patch points and all of those things that one has to have in the all up in the air at the same time. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's going well. I think we're kind of coming towards the end of this process, and I'm looking forward to having kind of a fully functioning workflow happening very soon here. Hey, Nick, I just wanted to mention that I'm hearing you and Gaz at the very least echoing.
I've got
back
you.
in.
Of course, it's because I switched the theme tune send back in, and I haven't switched it off yet. But it's on.
I see.
It's gone now, so it should be all right.
Now you don't no longer sound like a boxing announcer.
I'm not sure. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I quite like the idea of that.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's a good way to start the show.
Yeah. And you've got a pair of eggs as well, right? Have you bought them, or have you still got yours on trial?
Mine are no longer on trial. I bought them, and I love them. I have compared them to the two other sets of Genelec monitors that I happen to have, and prefer them very much over those two sets of monitors.
It's interesting, isn't it? Monitor choice seems to go like it spreads like a sort of virus, doesn't it? Through things, you get because I was seeing, for ages it was Genelec 1029s and various things like that. Then it was the I forget the the rockets, the KRKs. Then it's then there's another one at the moment which I forget the name of them. There's just sort of, you tend to see them. They go through. They sort of sweep through engineers. Do you find that I think these sort of feel like they're very much the current favourite?
Well, I think it might be too new to tell. I mean, there's a lot of buzz surrounding them. Here in the U.S., we were quite possibly one of the first facilities to actually get a hold of them, because we were definitely one of the few to order them directly from the U.S. distributor. So I think it might be they're too new to tell whether or not they'll catch on like that. But for us, we wanted to give these a try because the price point is far lower. But we were thinking of getting a pair of Barefoot Sound micromains.
I'm not familiar with those, but
those are considerably more expensive than the eggs, and so it was sort of we kind of figured we'd wind up settling on something like that, but then we got delivery of these, and we were anxious to try them out because there was a lot of buzz, and my studio partner has had several conversations with with some folks that know Andy Monroe, and we thought so. Yep.
Easy choice. Well, PJ, thanks very much for joining us. We'll now jump to Mr. Mark Tinley. Haven't seen you for a little while. I can see Mark there reaching for his phone. So how are you there, Mark?
Afternoon.
Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm actually doing some work, which is very bizarre for me because I don't normally do that very often. So I've been in the studio all day fiddling around with things, and I've discovered that something I did in 1996 actually has virtually no audio tracks in it at all. It was all... I used to use the Pro Tools 4-track as a way of making samples. So I just record things, cut it into samples, and bung it in a sampler. So absolutely everything, the whole track is constructed, vocals and everything, from a sampler.
Oh wow! How are you? So when you came to bring the multi-track back, it's like, oops, nothing.
There isn't one. There's no multi-track. That's the problem they're having. They want to do a remix, and there's no multi-track. So.
So does that mean you've got to reconstruct it again?
Well, I'm making one now, yeah. 16 years after the fact.
You must have a good memory for it. You retain that sort of information, though. I know you've got a good memory for that sort of thing, haven't you?
I have got quite a good memory, and given that I actually have named none of the tracks, they're all called Sample Cell 1, Sample Cell 2. I'm not going, I wonder what that could be. And then you have to sort of look at the MIDI and go, that might be drums, possibly a cymbal.
Oh, you bad boy. 16-year hiatus from that. That's yeah. Anyway, Mark, likebeing.com, very pleased to have you aboard. Thank you for joining us. It's the first you've seen of our spacious new office, I believe, as well, although you can't actually see it because I'm not sending the stream back, because that seemed to be one reason we were having this kind of glitching and problems. So I'm killing the stream. But anyway, welcome.
Send me a picture then.
I will send you a picture. And we'll say hi to Rich Hilton there from Hiltonius.com. Mix engineer, player, member of Chic, travelling disco songmeister. You're going on the road?
I usually call it the traveling disco flea circus.
You about to go? Do you about to do some gigs?
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't think I'll be here next week. I'm leaving for Australia in a week.
Ah, right, cool.
And then things will really be confusing for me in terms of trying to do these. But I'll have to consult with Kiwi Steve for some advice.
10 hours ahead, roughly, depending on where you are. So that's going to be impossible because it'll be basically
2 in the morning.
2 in the morning. Yeah.
No, that's right after the gig. What do you mean?
Oh yeah, well, we've done it before, haven't we? That was brilliant when you're in a hotel in Tokyo, and that was just I was very honoured that you made the effort.
We might just do that again this year.
Fantastic. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Well, good luck in all your gigs anyway, and thank you very much for joining us. I suppose we should probably talk about some topics because I haven't really got anywhere yet without even bothering, without getting there. So let's see. The first thing that I found this week, this was kind of interesting. I'll play this.
Hi everyone, my name is Richard Flanagan.
And I'm Hank Bone.
And we're Phosphine Systems, a small 3-person indie studio based in Montreal, Canada. So we're going to show you a bit of the game we've been working on. It's called Fract OSC, and it's still in development, so keep in mind that it's a work in progress. Fract is a first-person puzzle adventure game for PC and Mac. It's kind of like Myst meets Rez meets Tron. and it's set in a weird, broken-down, abstract world. Everything is built on sounds and structures inspired by electronic music. And Fract OSC focuses specifically on synthesizers.
And with that bombshell, I'll switch back to me. This is quite an interesting idea, actually. It's been a while since we've had a look at a game. I mean, there's been some musical games that we've looked at in the past, which have been kind of fun and interesting. And this is called Fract OSC. It's by Richard Flanagan. I can't pronounce the other. Somebody called Henk Boom, which I think is a fantastic name for a music game producer. It's a first-person adventure game. It's sort of you're presented puzzles from a first-person perspective, a bit like the classic Myst, and it's not all kind of super-duper real world with people sort of jumping about and everything, but it's quite. Yeah, that's a good one. Rescue Princess Delia's Derbyshire. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Yeah, what a great idea. Thank you, Rob GS.
Well, that's one of the things it's missing, so that's why it's so funny.
Did anyone get a chance? I downloaded it actually this morning and had a quick look at it just to see. And it's quite basic and quite Myst-like, but I like the idea that it's inspired by synthesizers, and there's lots of musical puzzles and stuff in there which I had a go at, but I couldn't even solve the first one, and I was like, well, I don't have much patience for games that require me to spend lots of time figuring out how to do something. It's like it's bad software interface design. It's like the antithesis of what I want in my everyday life, I suppose. But I know. What did you think, Gaz? You enjoy this? Your video's good today, I must say.
Oh, yeah, I thought it looked really good fun. I mean, and as you complete levels, you then gain extra functions for your. You start with a studio without any functionality, and then as you complete a level, you then actually build modules up in your own studio. And the idea being that you learn how to use each of the modules in completing the levels. So the idea is that once you all assemble it into one big studio, you understand what all the components are and how to operate them, and you can make music with it. So that idea, I think, is a very clever idea. That's the underlying idea. However,
isn't that a bit like just Reactor? Only you can actually use it for stuff.
I think what they're trying to say is that they're trying to appeal to people who maybe don't know how to use these things. So who kind of, by playing the game, figuring out the puzzle, you're actually learning about sort of music making and sort of the different tools and in doing that. So it's quite a clever idea. I don't know in practice how that will actually if you'd be able to make decent music on it. But from what I gather, then you can actually then bounce your music out of it. So you've actually, built a studio out of gaming. A clever idea.
Yeah, it could be. I guess. I mean, we've talked about this sort of thing in the past, haven't we? Well, quite a lot. We talk about interfaces. In fact, only last week we were talking about interfaces that obscure usage. But I suppose if it's labelled as a game, then that's a completely different thing. I know, Mark. You've done quite a lot of work on Second Life stuff, haven't you? So I'm guessing this might be something that has a resonance with you, or am I making a wild assumption there?
It's not really my area. This particular, gaming or any of that sort of stuff. I'm not overly keen on playing games, not even simple ones. I did buy Myst when that came out because everybody said it was so brilliant, so I thought I'd better try and get that. And I don't think I ever completed the first level, so I think there's a learning curve to even being able to play games, isn't there? And I've never really gotten past that. And Second Life is interesting because the characters that you interact with in Second Life are actually other real people.
Yes, I suppose pretending to be, isn't it?
Pretending to be avatars and stuff. So it kind of works a bit more like the real world. It's a bit more, chaotic, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's something that game designers can't design into it. Yeah, I suppose that interactivity is, yeah.
I mean, I'm very good at solving puzzles, but I'm not very good at working out how these things work. So I don't think my brain works in the same way as the designers of games, because I think they're designed. I think you have to have played games for a while to understand the interface, don't you? Like anything else, I guess.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I mean, and obviously you've done sound. I mean, I like the idea that there's a lot of synthesis-driven stuff, and that kind of makes sense.
The drum machine thing in there looked quite interesting, or the synth thing, where he'd got the pattern sequencer and then it kind of came up and the interface came up and then he was clicking on things and stuff. I mean, it's got some good concepts. I'd like to see it when it's finished, I think, and see what it, what exactly it is that it does.
Yeah, well, I think they're going. I mean, their work in progress. I think they're going to independent game developers convention and doing some more stuff on it. PJ, you've done installation stuff, and you're kind of often have to make sounds for. Doing sounds for kind of interactive environments. Is this the sort of thing that can you appreciate on that level?
Oh, most definitely. On the level that it's offered, I think. Back when I was a much younger person and had a lot of free time on my hands, I played Myst when it first came out, and I was one of those that got sucked into it and literally spent 52 hours in front of the computer and then completed it. And had this been that game, I think I would have been, in heaven, because it's kind of a, obviously right up our alley being musicians. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's really fun. And I don't know that it's necessarily aimed at, content creators and musicians for an actual environment for content creation, but more like what Gaz was saying as kind of a hybrid learning tool and a game, so that people, at least that's what I got out of watching the teaser video, so that people can play the game, complete the puzzles, learn a little something about composing electronic music with these tools, and then maybe make something of relevance to themselves and possibly others. So I think that, that's a great idea. You could see a lot of different ways they could branch out with it. You could teach rudimentary, even more complex music theory, harmonic structure theory. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do with a system like this. So I think it's really, really cool. It's a really great idea. I'm glad
that was the case. I mean, I can't help but think there must be other ways of doing it that don't involve having to navigate around a three-dimensional space and find, things to unlock or whatever. I know, Rich.
Well, it doesn't appeal to you, Nick.
I suppose it doesn't. Yeah, I just want to get on with it. I don't like anything in the way.
Yeah.
I suppose.
So
sure. It's almost a complete antithesis of something I would enjoy. So I suppose. But I just thought it was an interesting project, and obviously there's a lot of potential there. I don't know, Rich. What do you think?
What do I think? Well, I like Gaz on a purely basic conceptual level. Maybe it's not such a bad idea. Now, I should say I don't play a lot of games either, but I do work for a guy who is one of the biggest game soundtrack distributors in the world, and perhaps the biggest. So I see a lot of them, and I see a lot of them in development. And what my review of this thing is going to sound like is a list of the things that are missing, but I have to be forgiving because they say it's a very, very early attempt. Wow, that was a flurry of typing. Whoever just there was this Gaz. Aha, it was you. There's no plot. There are no characters. There's virtually no soundtrack. There's no particular point. The sequencer interface is interesting, but not after the third time you've used it. The controls aren't really well labeled in a way that would lead one who is not otherwise synthetically inclined to figure out what they do and why. The environment itself looks like it's about 15 years old and came from an original Nintendo. So that, there's a lot missing, but they say straight out, it's under development. It's very early. We're not ready to go yet. We're nowhere near it. Yeah, I understand. So who knows what this really is going to be? But what it is right now is something I wouldn't have shown to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I suppose that's a fair point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I guess my whole take on the concept is my brain fills in what it is that they're attempting to do with what they showed and what they say they plan on doing. They plan on making a game that's similar to Myst, or a combination of Myst, Tron, and Rez, which means that it's a puzzle game. And if you played Myst is not dissimilar to that environment in that it doesn't look anything like it. It was actually much better looking than that environment. But
yeah, but I don't think they put the textures in yet. I mean, I think
right.
I don't think. But, I mean, maybe.
So you're wandering around a kind of broken down, abandoned world, and you're attempting how to figure out how everything fits together via all of these little puzzles, and then puzzles are embedded inside of puzzles and that kind of thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with it. I completely agree with Rich. It looks very early and probably not ready for show. but it's great.
Well, perhaps we could we'll skirt along from that and maybe move on to something else. But that's Fract OSC. You can find it on I think it's Fract the game, richardflanagan.com. So yeah, do check it out. You could download a bit. I did download one here, but I didn't want to risk running it and trying to screen grab, considering all the technical difficulties we've had in the past. So anyway, let's take a look now. Oh, actually, I think what I'll do is I'll just quickly do a hello to our advertisers, and then we'll come back with the some more interesting topics. So I want to say thank you very much to Yamaha for the continued sponsorship of the show. What you're seeing here, if you're watching the video feed, which I heartily recommend you do, sonicstate.com/live 4 p.m, is footage for the new Yamaha 01V96i digital mixer. It's a compact digital mixer. It's got a bunch of extra stuff inside it. It's got VCM effects, 16-in, 16-out USB 2 audio streaming, new head amps, which are the same ones as they use in the new Steinberg interfaces, which are supposed to be really, really tasty. 40 mixing channels, 32 mono, 4 stereo, 16 analog and 8 digital inputs. 24-bit 96K ADDA, 8 auxiliary 8-inch buttses, 100mm motorized phasers, up to 4 effects, Steinberg Cubase AI included. You've also got ADAT I/O as standard. You don't have to use any YGDAI expansion slots, although there is a spare one there. So please do check it out. Go to your local Yamaha dealer, run some audio through it, try the plugins. There's lots and lots of great things about Yamaha Desk. I must admit, we run the entire Sonic State setup through a Yamaha DM1000, which is similar technology, but perhaps a bit older, I think, and not quite as tasty, I think. I'd like to get one in and try it out, and I suggest that you go over to your local dealer, whether you're in the States or wherever you are in the world, and try it out. For more information, you can try this bit.ly URL, which is bit.ly/01V96i. That's bit.ly/01V96i. So thank you very much to Yamaha for the continued sponsorship of the show. Right, so what's next? This was kind of interesting. I'm not sure how much of it I can play because of the copyright issues, but let's give it a go, eh?
You guys ready?
Yeah.
So this is OK Go, and they're in a car. I'm going to probably play a few snippets of it because it's quite long. So the sound is essentially making all the noise. And the whole video is basically this car journey around this course with things attached to it that hit things in time. It's absolutely amazing piece of construction. I mean, that must have taken so much planning and also training to be able to drive at that consistent speed. And the sort of thing that, you know, how many takes would you have had to do? Can you imagine having to string up all of those glass bottles? I mean, God. So I know it's kind of great piece of fun. And I did have a clip of the actual original track, but I don't have it to hand at the moment. Good thing. I imagine, Mark, you're the sort of engineer and the kind of man who likes to make things out of metal in you, probably just thought, is that a job you'd like to have had, working on that video? It sounds like it would have been great.
I started watching it and I thought, what's this about? And then the things were dangling on the front of the car and I thought, oh, that's clever. And by the time I was about a minute in, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I was sitting going like, oh, my God. I mean, it must have taken so long to put that together and to plan it out, like you say. And where did they get all those pianos? Or have they done some very clever editing thing to make it look like there's lots of pianos when there really aren't? Or,
there's probably a big
how much did that cost to make that? It must have
$1 million, I think. And there was not only that. You see all the guitars. There must have been 200 or 300 guitars.
Basically. I mean, amazing, totally amazing, gobsmacked.
It's a very interesting thing. I don't know. It's kind of it's almost like performance art, really. It's gone from the realms of just standard musical kind of output to performance. And they're a very interesting band, OK Go, because they don't rely on sales at all. There was a recent article, actually, which was saying, they've got like hundreds of millions of YouTube views, and it's a fraction of the income that they get. It's just sort of small. In fact, their manager said it's like finding change on the street. It's hardly worth anything. I mean, it really is kind of astonishing. And the way that they now work is by doing these partnership sponsorship deals with, in this case, it was Chrysler, because they supplied the car, and it's a huge piece of viral marketing. And so they get I guess they get something akin to a record advance out of somebody like Chrysler, and there have been other companies that they work with. It's a very interesting way of doing things. I know, PJ, you kind of you've done quite a lot of sound design and installation stuff, and also it just seems like a great model, do you not? Although it must take a lot of time to for people to actually put together.
I've never done anything like that. Yeah, no, that's it's pretty amazing. It was really, really fun to watch. In terms of the corporate sponsorship model, I think this seems to be, definitely an uptrend. I was reading a blog post by Jack Conte, who is one half of the band Pomplamoose. And he was talking about the same thing, how he's moving towards that as well as being sort of the sole source of income for his music making. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, obviously I make my living generally, writing music that's essentially ad music. And I get some emails through the show and from other people asking, how do you get into it, and how is it to sell your soul?
He says you have. That's a harsh. That's very.
I know, and nobody's harsh. They're more inquisitive about it. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that. And I make the distinction that the music that I write is for hire, mixing up sort of the rock and roll world and the pop world, although it's been done forever and a day, and even those back in the day that did it, purely as artistic expression, have all sold out, long since sold out in the form of the Who and Led Zeppelin and all of this. So I guess it's here to stay. I don't know. There is still a part of me that reacts a little bit. There's a twinge I have when I see, especially young bands kind of up and coming, and I don't know enough about OK Go to know really, but that are just kind of breaking in this world, and the first thing they're doing is partnering up with large corporations. I guess that's just the way of it now, nowadays.
It's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, in some ways, it's very akin to if you're an attractive young woman and you want to be a songwriter, you want to get well known, you're probably going to be better off making some kind of salacious video to get yourself known. And it's a sort of similar principle, I suppose. It's just a path less trodden, perhaps. I'm not sure.
And I guess I'm being a little inarticulate about it because I haven't really worked out all my internal emotions, surrounding the model. But I think we'll probably definitely see a lot more of this, as
I think
things
so. Rich, what do you think?
I found it very entertaining, and like Mark, was fascinated and amazed by the setup of the physical thing that they did. I don't think what you're hearing has anything to do with what you're seeing. And I think listening to a car rev is all the evidence you need of that while you're in the middle of the thing, because the car cannot possibly maintain a speed that constant in that kind of an environment. It just can't be done.
Okay.
So, therefore, how I believe it was done, since somebody's asking in the chat room now, is I believe it started on paper as an installation design. And then they created the music that would make that installation design work. That's my suspicion as to how it was done. And then they went out and filmed it. And the filming of it is what is really so magnificent to me.
Right.
Yeah, because don't you think they would have had to have done all the proper measurements to figure out, at what speed and interval they needed objects in the car to be traveling in order to go along?
No, because as long as they're evenly spaced, you can make the video as fast or as slow as you want.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's right.
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
You can time stretch chunks of video to fit the music. Can't
do you think that's maybe what's happened then, Rich? They just time stretched it to get it to work.
Well, no, maybe they played it in the car while they were driving and went for it on a clip-by-clip basis, but...
Oh, interesting. It's an interesting... I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Why would you try to record that? When you can make it first and then go film it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, well, that's an interesting idea. I mean, it still works. It still works as a concept, though. I think
absolutely. I started out saying it was great. I loved it. I don't hold them. I don't hold their feet to some sort of mythical fire on this. I'm not mad about it.
No.
I'm fine with it.
I would like to know the inner secrets of how they do it. I know, Gaz, did you get a chance to look at it? And were there any hints for you?
Well, they've obviously put a lot of attention into it to make you think that it's been recorded. You can see the microphones on the car, and and it seems that I want to believe that what you're hearing is what actually happened. I don't think that's the case, but it certainly has the illusion of it, which is cool. I mean, OK Go have really created a name for themselves as being the most innovative video makers possibly of all time, really. I mean, the one that they did, like the big Rube Goldstein thing, I think is possibly the best. That's the best one I've ever seen, I think.
That would be Goldberg.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I was actually going to say Heath Robinson, but I modified it for you
That's
American
good.
types.
And
I got it wrong.
And we love you for it. It's better that you got it wrong, actually. It is, believe me.
Great kudos to them for doing it. And, so even if it's fake, I don't really care. I want to believe it's real, because but the guy, he took stunt driving lessons, didn't he? The singer did.
Well, that's what he says, yeah. I mean, that makes again, that adds to the sort of the feeling you think, oh, that's why he's so good at driving at that, but it might actually be,
Yeah, but I don't care, to be honest, if it's real or fake. The whole idea of it, concept of it, and also the massive effort that went into it all, makes it really good in my book.
KRS-80, my missus thought it was recorded live, but she also believes in ghosts and LFOs. Yeah,
LFOs,
UFOs, even LFOs. I believe in LFOs. Ah, excellent. I believe in LFOs. Do you? In fact, I've got one. There's one actually performing on doing something for the. What's that doing? That's the Monotribe with the MIDI retrofit kit. I was playing around with it earlier. But anyway, that's
actual LFO. Wow.
That is an actual LFO. I've seen one. It's right there. There it is. It's going very fast at the moment. So, anyway, the OK Go thing, it's just a very interesting shift as well. I mean, I think that whole idea that you can change, they are the people that have really sort of grabbed hold of this new model and gone, well, we'll do it this way, and kind of built a way. But there's only room for one or two of those, aren't there, really? There's not going to be an awful lot of OK Go's in the world, because the whole value of it all would disintegrate, and you'd have to. I mean, they must have a brilliant creative director, or have some brilliant minds in the band that enable them to kind of come up with consistently with these. Because essentially, a lot of their videos are based around illusion, aren't they? The idea of doing these amazing things in some respects that look impossible and making them seem possible, I suppose.
Yeah, but I've noticed though there is a video now of going back to the
Rube Goldberg
one. There's a video of trying to point out where because this all looks like it's one continual shot, and someone's posted a video trying to show where all the kind of seams are and trying to sort of discredit the whole idea of it. But I kind of think, foo, it's great, leave them alone. Doesn't matter if it's fake. It's good entertainment.
Excellent. Well, if anybody else got anything to add on that, we could move on to our next topic, which I think I was going to go for the automatic automation, just because I thought it might generate an interesting set of discussions. Here we have, this is the Melder Production M Auto Volume, which is basically... it rides the volume. It's kind of, I guess it's like a much larger scale compressor, I suppose. We're thinking wanting another way of putting it, and it just rides the volume for you and writes the automation. Or I'm not entirely sure how it does. It doesn't give me the entire signal path, but it's only $20 and actually pretty good value. But what it did for me was how do you use automation in your mix? Because I mean, now we can use automation, on pretty much every single parameter that we want. I mean, and do you tend to do that, or do you tend to try and let it breathe and sort of keep things nailed down with compression? I mean, when you're working within the box. I know, Rich, you are Mr. in the box basically now as well, although you do have extra. There you are. Look, you're in a box right there. I can see you. How do you approach automation? What sort of criteria would you apply before you would automate? I mean, or would you prefer to sort of nail the dynamics through other methods?
Well, I always wanted to be able to draw the automation on the audio. I actually always liked that idea of having that degree of precision available. But over the weekend, I was working on a large-scale console for the first time in a long time, and I rekindled my love affair with the fader. But at work, I don't do that. And at work, I generally draw the automation that I need onto the edit window rather than perform it with a mouse.
Right. Okay. So you just do it that way, right? So there's no dynamic. There's no dynamic kind of interaction of you moving a fader or any other automation side of things. Like
well, I mean, initially there is. In other words, I'll set up my basic levels, obviously, using the mixer side, say of Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton or whatever. The faders. Yeah. In other words, I'll push faders until I've got a basic balance. Because that doesn't require you actually operating the mouse as some sort of mechanical replacement for having your finger on a fader, which I don't like to do. But you know what I mean, in the real-time sense of pushing a syllable in a vocal or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So for me, I don't mind a fader, and I could see the value of having some, but I have no problem at all drawing volume pan, pretty much any kind of plug-in automation I want into the edit window. That's actually how I prefer to work.
Right. Oh, it's interesting. Because I always really like the idea of actually performing a kind of you do a vocal pass and you ride the vocal and then you go back and you tweak it when it's not right and modify and what have you. I know, Gaz. You're similar. You're doing. You work sort of quite fast in a certainly in a recording environment. Do you get the same sort of approach for mixing? I mean, how do you tend to approach automation?
Clip gain, really. That's my main thing, because I like to see the volume represented in the size of the waveform. I find so being able to, which I know Pro Tools 10 can now do as well. Finally, but that it's I tend to sort of slice bits by sections, and then I like being able to control a whole part. If I need to then go in and adjust a part within it, then I'll use automation, and I'll tend to draw it in with the mouse. I've got a few different sort of control surfaces which I've used over the years, like.
You mean all the ones that are on the floor and no longer being used? Yeah.
I just picked this up off the floor.
I've got a bunch of those too. Yeah.
But when I draw automation in using something like this, this is an Alpha Track, Frontier Labs Alpha Track. I tend to sort of get too much twinges or too many little bits not smooth enough for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. So I don't really find that to be hugely useful. So as I say, I think that for me, clip gain is the best way I found. That's for volume automation only, mind. So I should mention that. Interesting.
I when I'm editing video, that's what I tend to use a lot as well. Just kind of, just that's a bit quiet. Normalize and clip gain. The two. The two tools I tend to use.
Yeah, it's certainly in terms of speed. I think that's the quickest way of working, really. Actually, I really enjoy Ableton Live's automation approach. I think that's really good fun. I like the idea that you just drag out a section and then you can just grab you can just move it directly, whatever's highlighted. So say you've got like about 3 seconds highlighted, and then you just kind of drag on the line. So it almost works like the kind of clip gain handles, so to speak.
So it's linked to the edit object much more tightly.
Yeah,
I don't think I've got into that. Yeah. Is that in arrange mode? Because I haven't really got into that.
That's in arrange. It's in arrange mode.
I never go there. I occasionally hit tab by accident.
Ableton Live. I mean, the arrange mode, is not a full-featured sort of audio DAW really, but it's actually such a speedy kind of environment for working in.
Right.
So things like automations, I really enjoy it in Ableton. So yeah,
right. Mark Tinley, you're lounging there in a sort of very sedate fashion. It's time for you to get to work, man.
I hate automation.
Oh, really?
Drives me insane. I want to be able to see my waveforms and see what's going on, and I don't want yellow lines all over everything, which is what tends to happen in Logic, isn't it? So I compress the hell out of everything, and then if I want volume fade-ins, I can do a fade-in up to 9,999 milliseconds long by just sticking it on the front or end of a clip. So I chop things up and put fade-ins and fade-outs on them. And if it's not going to be something that's fading in or fading out, if I want a quieter section of vocal, for example, I will duplicate the track that I'm working on and drag the region to another track. So I'll literally...
That's not uncommon, is it? Yeah.
Rather than automate, have the volumes going up and down, I'll just say, well, the quieter lead vocal's on the track below it, and I'll just drag it down onto a lower track. And then actually that means that I might go and fiddle around with some reverb settings. If it's slightly quieter, I might change a couple of things in about the EQ or something. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, synths I still automate sometimes.
I mean, I know other people who work that way, but the thing about that I find is what happens is you end up with massive track counts.
Yeah.
And you forget, and then you end up doing things like, so if you've got a vocal sound you really like, and it's got like an EQ, a compression, something else, when you duplicate the track, you've got to duplicate all of those plugins as well, so you end up doubling and using all your readers. So it's a very inefficient way of working in from a CPU resources point of view, but it does make absolute sense, because I know Goldfrapp works that way all the time, because it's just easier. It's like easier to kind of process. Go new track, grab that there. Yeah, that's quieter. Thank you. And
but the thing is, once you've got about 10 or 15 different signal paths set up, if you're in the middle of a mix and you can't make something work, it's really interesting to just grab a region and chuck it into another channel and see what happens. So if I've got a guitar that I can't quite get the right sound on, if I shove the guitar through something like, I don't know, the strings setting, or duplicate it and drop it, so I've got parallel regions. I've got the guitar and then I've got another identical region going through another channel. It sometimes works to kind of meld the mix together to be using the same reverbs or chorus settings or flanging settings or whatever you happen to have in those channel strips.
Right.
So it sometimes helps glue things together that you can't get to glue together any other way, to just drag stuff around, duplicate things and drop them on other channels. I know it sounds like a weird way of working, but it does actually work quite well.
No, I think it's valid, and it's one that I've personally used myself. And because when you get into automation mode, the only problem that I find with all of that is you've got your mix set up, you've got your arrangement, or you thought you did. You do a load of stuff with automation and mixing, and then somebody says, right, yeah, we need to cut these 4 bars out here, put that there, and then the automation just goes completely out the window, and all the nodes get screwed up, and it's just like, it's just that's why I probably don't use automation to
that's exactly why I don't use it in Logic. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's not the same in other DAWs.
No, I mean, this is one of the really annoying things in Logic, I have to say. It's but I hate Logic, so.
But Pro Tools, the automation seems to be inside the region to a certain extent, doesn't it? So if you drag a region, it tends to take all the automation with it.
Yeah, you get the situation where you've got a bit of automation previous to that region because you needed something to tail outside of, do you see what I mean? You automated the reverb,
and it doesn't go,
and it's a nightmare. PJ, tell us how you do it. I'm interested to know.
Okay, so in Cubase you can move automation around as objects with your audio regions. So this doesn't present itself as a problem. It depends on the piece of music. It depends on what's being done. Like Rich and Gaz, I tend to draw automation in. However, I will perform it with a mouse if it's kind of an effecty thing, or I want a certain sort of feel, and then if I need to fix it, for some reason, I'll go back and do that. Using in the edit page, arrange page. But the issue of malting came up. Duplicating a track and using different settings on that track, and I do that quite a bit if there's going to be like a radically different kind of sound, or if I'm doing something in parallel with another something. So sometimes there'll be I guess this isn't really automation, but you might want to put something that's slightly compressed or heavily compressed or distorted slightly underneath something that's not. And maybe that track has automation on it, or maybe it doesn't. And so I'll definitely duplicate and have that happen. Or if on a vocal or on a featured solo instrument or something like that, something's going to take a radical turn, depending on what that turn is, it can either be automated as a send, it might be automated on a plugin on the original track, or I might malt it and then completely change the sound so that it's easy to pull back from.
Am I mistaken in thinking that you can add plugins to individual regions in Cubase? I know you can in some DAWs, and you can process, so you can just, rather than do it on a track basis, you do it on an individual region basis. So that would make malting perhaps less of an issue, because you could have do you see what I mean? I'm pretty sure, does Reaper allow you to do that, Gaz? I'm pretty sure it does, doesn't it?
Sorry, I was distracted. Say that again. Does
Reaper allow you to actually drop plugins on an actual region rather than the track-based thing? There are a number of DAWs, but there are a number of DAWs that do that anyway.
Samplitude, I think, was the first one to sort of bring that in, but Reaper does that, and it's a terrific thing that is, and I am. For me, Reaper is the ultimate mastering environment. Largely
for that reason, right? Yeah.
Largely to do with that reason, but also what's really cool is you can have within a single clip in region, you can have multiple takes, and you can have a different effect on each take within a region. So, it goes to quite a. Wow. You can do quite a lot of stuff with it, and it's a very cool way of working. Yeah. Actually, that is, and when you get into that, you kind of think, come on, you need everyone else to catch up with that, because it's definitely a very forward step, really.
No, that's an interesting idea. I haven't experimented with that kind of as a concept. I suppose it works because I work in the nonlinear in Vegas. Vegas allows you to put plugins and things on particular regions for not for audio, but certainly for video. So I use that quite a lot. If there's a clip that just needs a bit of color correction, rather than create a new track, I'd just rather do it on the clip level. So I suppose that works that way. And most DAWs do allow you to move automation data around, don't they? I mean, but it's that stuff which is where the automation is coming in pre or post to a clip. When you move that and do some edits, it doesn't always follow, at least in Logic. Maybe that's where I'm.
No, it kind of jumps, doesn't it, suddenly or something.
Yeah.
Nick, in terms of this automatic plugin, the plugin that sort of automates automation.
Yeah.
This is sort of an interesting new breed of plugin I've been sort of watching this for a little while, as I'm sure probably a lot of the panel have, and was talking to somebody recently that was using Waves Bass Rider, which is a very similar concept to the plugin that you introduced at the beginning of the segment.
Uh-huh.
And they were saying that it works excellently. It's an excellent solution for sort of automating down to in between individual notes on a bass part and evening out the part. Either post-recorded compression and EQ, or on a flat bass part, and has diminished the necessity for other dynamics processing and that kind of thing for this particular engineer's mixing. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so it is interesting. I mean, I haven't used any of them personally, so I don't know how they would work for me. But somebody that I know is using them and liking them. So it's kind of interesting.
Rich, you were going to come in there. I didn't want you to not have the opportunity to.
Oh, I was just responding to most DAWs do that, and certainly Pro Tools does, and I think most of them do drag the automation with the region when you move the region.
Yeah.
They don't keep the automation where it was.
I know you have an option. No, you have an option. It's the things that what happens is when you've got something that's automating slightly before the region starts, like maybe it's a bypass or maybe it's this or that or the other, because you want it slightly ahead of when the audio kicks in, and you cut out that 4 bars and you're moving it around, you're doing arrangement style moving about, that all can get screwed. Certainly it does in Logic anyway, it can get screwed.
Well, it won't pull anything before or after the selection, typically. I don't even know if there's a way...
pull something a little bit before the selection, doesn't it? Pro Tools will drag...
Oh.
If there's something that seems to be quite intelligent, if there's a piece of like pitch shift information before the segment starts and you move a segment, it seems to pull something that's marginally before the actual downbeat of the bar. So it will pull things slightly before if they run into the...
Oh, okay. Well, that's the sort of stuff that you... But nonetheless, I mean, because there's nothing worse than, if you've got halfway through a mix and you're kind of like in this automation mode, and then you change an arrangement and you have to think, oh, God, it didn't all work properly, that it left a couple of nodes out of my, pre-fade or whatever. And that's the stuff that's just a pain, and that's why.
Two other things that came up along the way that I wanted to talk about. One was PJ's comment about duplicating tracks. Did I understand you correctly, PJ, to say that you are going to actually play two voices on the same voice on two separate tracks in order to achieve these things?
No.
Okay.
No, not the same.
You do.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah, you might. Come to think of it. But what I do, and this ties into the whole clip-based plugin thing too, is what I'll do, again, in Pro Tools, is I'll pull a plugin and bypass it and automate the bypass switch so it only shows up where I want it. So when I need that distorted background vocal to show up just in the second verse, I've got the distortion on the track. It's there for the entire track, but it's sitting there muted. It only comes open at the point where I need it.
Right. That does use up CPU cycles, though, doesn't it? Even muted.
Does it?
Yeah, sure, but I'm not hurting for those.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to borrow some?
Sorry.
There's an interesting, slightly off topic, but just coming back to Reaper, something that's a very cool thing that you can do in Reaper. You can turn a mode on a track per track basis called free item positioning, and what you can do there is you can multi-track into the same track.
Right.
So for instance, like the other day, I was doing a load of hand claps, like 8 tracks of hand claps. So rather than having to sort of laboriously set up 8 tracks to put them onto, they all go into the same track. So you just literally just set the loop up, just go around, and then all of those tracks. And so it's like polyphonic within a single track. Each.
Just like it's almost like a folder, effectively.
A folder track, yeah.
Yeah, but it's. But even still, a folder track, each track in that would have to have its own sort of fader and its own sort of, so it would come up on the mix. It's a very elegant way of having many tracks going in, for things like that, and backing vocals if you're doing like oohs and ahs and that kind of thing, where you want to sort of triple track all those parts or whatever, so they can all live on the same track. But why I'm mentioning that in relation to what we're talking about, though, is again, you can drop individual plugins on to each one of those within the same track again. So it's an interesting way of working. I urge everyone to try it because it's great.
Big props for Reaper. I use it on the podcast, in fact. But and so you should try it because it's basically free to try. So why wouldn't you give it a go? It's just a question of whether you've got the time to it. But yeah, it's a very good and useful product. Anyway. meldaproduction.com is where you want to go. They've got a lot of very interesting suites. They've got modern compressor, multiband dynamics. They've got things for kind of auto-conforming and auto-phase alignment, all sorts of interesting stuff. So well worth a visit if you're after it.
The one about the phase alignment is the one I looked into because that's very interesting to me. It actually analyzes pieces of audio you specify and purports to align their phase automatically.
Waves have got a plugin that does that as well, haven't they?
Yes, I believe so. I'm just trying to find the...
They have a new one, actually, that I was just emailed by them about some new phase alignment tool.
With a clever pun.
for a name.
It has a clever pun, but I still can't remember the name of it.
I'm just looking for the mixing. Okay, that's what we're probably looking for.
So
shift happens. That's what it is, right?
Shift happens.
Yeah, that's
Shift happens.
That's a great show title right there.
So, what does this plugin do?
Now you got me. I don't know, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it just analyzes the overall output and changes the, changes the volume output based on the input volume, I'm guessing. And
So
you can
if I
set
put
parameters.
one of those on every single track, and then I ran the mix, would it sound like a really good mix?
It'd probably sound like everything was as loud as everything else, wouldn't it?
I don't know. How does it know how loud to make something in relation to what else?
Well, that I don't know. That I don't know.
And there's the rub, isn't it?
Yeah, who knows that? Well, I mean, we'll have to see, won't we? But anyway, I think you should check them out. Melda Production, they've got specials on. They're 70%, and they do Mac and PC, VST audio units. So yeah, I mean, well worth checking out.
Nick, if Melda Productions has not figured out the answer to Mark's last question, I am convinced that one day Celemony will.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true. And probably know it before you do yourself, before you've even written the track.
Yeah.
Right, so this one was a good one to end on. Let's have a look. This one is right here.
Your Mac. It's a beautiful instrument. It's a shame it ended up in my hands, really. The trouble is I modified this one so much that it's probably unfixable now. I don't think this is going to work, this one. Listen to nothing. Oh, shite.
Excuse me.
Antediluvian objects. It's completely knackered. Not a single thing makes a noise. I used to have 7 of these.
Don't you know? Yeah, good for you, mate. And now I like to think that some of those bookshelves are from IKEA. And I don't know. I've just got
I've actually been in that room. I don't think they are.
Oh, no, you've been there, have you? Oh, good for you.
I have. Can you remember when I was doing that thing with Leah, the Open Boat Orchestra?
Oh, right.
She said to me, "Oh, you must come and sing in Brian Eno's choir." And I said, "Okay." So I went round to his house, and I'm pretty sure it was that room, and we all stood there and sang.
Did you say antediluvian?
Really nice music. It was a really nice choir, actually. It was good fun.
Antediluvian.com. Yes, that's brilliant. I enjoyed that. Really, the purpose of that clip was not to poke fun at Brian Eno, although it's an easy target. It was more to do with the fact that how do you decide what to use, what's current, what sort of you might use that you need to have to hand, and what to put in the garage where you're really going to have a hard time putting it away, and what to get rid of. There's there are various stratas of these things, aren't there? And I'm guessing someone like Mr. Eno will have cupboards and then maybe a garage, and then maybe some storage that's across town, that kind of thing. It's that sort of whole strata of equipment. Rich.
Yes.
Does it work like that? I mean, because you probably have several ways, because you've got your home set up and then you've got the kind of studio set up. I'm guessing with someone like Niall, there are things that he would want to use all the time, whereas, he might, for instance, want to reach for that Rocktron chorus that you just had to have from the 80s, that, maybe in a cupboard somewhere or whatever. Where does all that stuff live? How does that all how do those decisions get made? Not necessarily there, but, generally.
In terms of what he wants to use?
Well, how you get hold of it. What you keep at hand at all times.
What do I keep at hand? I keep at least 1 or 2 working wah-wahs. There's probably a flanger in the building, but we almost never record with it. There's a Moog envelope filter that I love dearly that we hardly ever use. And 99% of the guitar recording we do is straight into a Neve console. So it's not that complicated.
Right. Well, that's fair enough.
That's what his sound has always been, is a combination of DI and amp. But where we work now, it's a residential neighborhood. It's a house. I'm trying to remember if I can recall ever miking a guitar amp up there. I don't think so.
Oh, okay,
but when I go to a real studio, like when we recorded guitars for Adam Lambert's forthcoming album, I used an amp and a DI and had a blast getting toned. Had microphones everywhere. It was great. It was big fun.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
That does. Thank you very much. And now, Gaz, you're quite impulsive when it comes to just shedding stuff, as far as I can gather, from what I know of you. And you might have regrets after a little while, but what are the criteria that trigger that response in you?
Ooh, as in if I've sold something and then...
Well, it's like I don't need this anymore, or I do need it, but I'm not going to keep it in the room. What are those various?
Because I'm literally listing about 30 items at the moment to sell. So I've been really downsizing, getting rid of lots of stuff. So the criteria, and actually I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff which I'd kind of like to keep. So to answer the question, then I think it's I've just been trying to be really honest with myself and thinking I'm trying to make a really efficient way of working. So is this item, does it fit into this fast way of working, or is it actually more trouble than it's worth? For instance, I'm selling my valve mics because I just can't be bothered with all the power supplies and stuff with them, and so because that's an extra. This is for my remote stuff, you see.
Right. Okay.
So if I take my valve mic out, then it's taken out the power supply. So that would be one criteria. If it's a little bit more sort of hassle to set up. Secondly, the iPad kind of replaces a lot of stuff in my studio, a lot of kind of control surfaces and things like drum machines and some effects units and certain bits and bobs. Like the iPad can kind of do a lot of that stuff. So all that stuff is kind of on its way out. I sometimes think as well that if something is going to become obsolete, you've got
to get rid of it quick before it becomes really obsolete. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, like I missed the trick there with my power core, so I'm stuck with my power core.
I sold mine. I did actually manage to sell mine. I think I got a couple of £100 for it.
Right. That's a weird one now, you see, with these kind of things like I've got a power core and I've got a liquid mix. I've got those items I've got lots of projects from my past
that still have that. Yeah. I see what you mean.
So if I do need to recall them for any reason, then they're not going to play back as I want them to.
Right.
And then
well, that's a good criteria, if you're going to need it again because you've got it's part of something that still lives.
That's true. So I will tend to hold on to things in that respect. Otherwise, I'm just looking around now at what I've actually kept. The computer just does so much, doesn't it, these days?
Yeah.
So good front end, good preamps and mics, and a computer and monitors. And that's it, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I know. One thing for me, we've moved, and I've got two rooms. Those two behind both of those blue doors are just piles and piles of stuff that was basically in a box in the previous office, and I don't even know what most of it is there for, to be honest. So I probably should do some of that. But things like this and the props. I don't use my Jupiter 6 very often, but like you said, Rich, in the chat room, some stuff is there just to look good. That has a sort of valuable point, because you don't want to be working in something that just looks like a kind of office with a load of filing cabinets and a computer screen. There has to be a sort of element to it. I know. What about you, Mark? Because I know you've got garages, and you tend to. Would it be fair to say you hoard, or are you pretty good?
It's motorbikes I'm hoarding at the moment. I'm going to have a massive eBay sale of motorbikes. But yes, audio things. So what's my criteria for something? Well, it has to be something that, in order for me to keep something and think it's worth keeping, it needs to be something that you would take so long to replicate in any other way, shape, or form that it just wouldn't be worth sitting down and doing it. And some things just have a very certain sound that I really like that I haven't found in any other format. So the Boss made a purple flanger with 4 knobs on it in the 80s called a Boss BF2, I think. It's a guitar pedal. It sounds really good, and I've kept one of those. Casio toy samplers. I mean, it would take so long to replicate what they do in plugins that it's easier to keep them. I've got a Powertran MCS1, which is a MIDI sampling delay, which you just literally wouldn't be able to find anywhere, which you can record loops into it, and then you can twist the pitch knob up and down and record different things in while you're twisting the pitch knob up and down, and then you can press another button and it puts it into sampling mode. So it works like... So
far, Mark, all I'm hearing is I've just kept everything.
No.
So what have you got rid of, and what, but what's the, so stuff that you can't replicate anywhere else, sure. But I mean, do you actually ever, that's great, but do you use any of that stuff? I mean, is it something that you might reach for or have it to hand? Or is it?
Yeah, I've got a special box. I've got a big silver box that I take to studios. If I'm working with anyone in the studio, I'll take this big pile of crap, basically.
In a fancy case.
Which has some, and it's sort of like things that you can get a sound out of relatively quickly, and they do things that you couldn't do with a plug-in. So, I don't know, another one, Electro Harmonics bass pools. It's like this weird foot pedal thing that goes on a bass. Just has this weird filter followed sound, but you can't, there's no plug-in that does it. So I would, pull that out the bag to do that. The Yamaha SPX 50D just sounds so ridiculously horrible, the distortion in that there's nothing else that sounds like that, but it's a really good sound. So those kind of things.
Yeah. So
I think, am I right in saying the person that asked the question initially sort of said, what things would you recommend might become future classics?
Well, actually, no, there was, because it was sort of tied to this email from Bill Shaver from Toronto, Canada, and he said, loves the podcast, wish you could do it daily. That would be a task.
So my recommendation to everybody would be go and buy a V-Synth of some sort, shape or form, delete all the internal waveforms, and use the oscillators in there and not the waveforms, and it's actually a really good synth with the not sampled they're still sampled waveforms, but with the sawtooth, square tooth, pulse, and various different things. It's got nice pulse width, but I can't say it.
Pulse width modulation.
Width modulation on it. It can make some really good fat synth sounds, and it sounds as good, if not better, than any of the analog emulations that I've heard. And then when you do start throwing samples in it, playing around with that pitch and time thing, I mean, I know you can do it in Contact, but it doesn't do it quite the same way. The Roland system, in terms of like being able to stretch and elasticate audio and being able to immediately come up with harmonies for things by literally playing them on a keyboard, is absolutely brilliant.
Is that V-Synth GT, not just a regular V-Synth?
No, I've just got a regular one.
Oh, right, okay.
But, I mean, if you can't afford one of those, which I didn't think I could a while back, but now I have, the Roland VP9000 sampler is also really good. And I've got one for sale, actually.
No, we did a thing with that. I mean, it did look pretty amazing, actually. It did get overlooked, I think, a little bit. PJ.
Yes, sir.
Your turn.
I kind of break this down into two separate criteria for letting go of things and or not letting go of things, and one is how useful is it to me, and two, and I guess I kind of had to come to terms with this when sort of reviewing my own choices in this matter, are what am I emotionally attached to? Because there are some things that apparently I am emotionally attached to that I could probably get rid of. One is an old SR16 drum machine that I still have hanging around and has just sort of been a studio curiosity. Like anybody that walks into my workspace and sees it either recognizes it as immediately and says, oh, I had one of those, or I remember those, or wow, I forgot about those. Or somebody will say, what the hell's that? I've never seen one of those. So it's, I like that little little piece and I keep it around because I'm kind of emotionally
milestone
attached.
technology, really, as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, for me, for sure. And another piece like that, currently I'm beginning to realize I'm not using very much anymore my Roland VK7, as I'm using mostly as a controller my Nord piano and various other bits and bobs that I use to twiddle knobs. I have an EMU controller and machine for doing knobs and pads and faders and whatnot. And so I'll have to wait and see whether or not that's something I could let go of, and whether or not I actually will, because I've made so much music on it and I love it so much that I might just keep it around for that reason. It's somehow made it into sort of a place of veneration. Now, I'm not like that about a lot of things. I'm pretty easy to let go of things. So currently selling some Genelec monitors, a Toft ATB board, some microphones, just things that are not in use and will not get use or see use, and would be better to some Apogee conversion, some things that I know are just kind of taking up space
and dollars. Yeah, you can still sell those for a reasonable amount, I would have thought.
Yeah, we can hopefully recover some dollars from selling some of this gear. And
I mean, that's to an extent that's what I've been trying to do. I sold the Prophecy. Remember the Prophecy that I bought live on air one week?
Yeah.
I've sold it to Dave, who said he would pick it up if we ever wanted to get rid of it, because I enjoyed playing it for a couple of weeks, and then it just basically stayed in the box for a while because there was nowhere for it to go. So it's going to a good home, and it's funding the new HDMI camera switching unit that's arriving tomorrow. So it's like you got to do it like that. It's an interesting theory. I just think it's kind of fun to express these things. Anyway, that email, I didn't actually get to read it all, but it was Bill Shaver, from Canada. He just wondered what might be classic in the future. We sort of partly answered that, so I'm sorry we didn't get around to the fullness of it. But that was the thing that sparked it all off was the Eno clip, and that was from an Arena Special, which is a UK sort of arts program that was all about. And I would love to have. I would really like to spend some time with Brian Eno in a DX7 and get him to show me what it did that made him so excited, because I've never done that, and it would be kind of fun. Sorry, Mark, you about to say?
Nothing about Brian Eno. I'm just interrupting you again as usual. Sorry. I've got a request at this point. I want to buy a Yamaha CS80.
Oh, your audio's gone real bad. You might have to replug your.
Hello?
You've gone all Xylon. Is that? Has everybody done that? Is everybody else getting audio okay? Just go.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, we're all right. I think Mark.
You sound all right, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you
cool.
sure I just don't have a frog in my throat?
Okay, try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Am I Xylon?
No.
Excellent. So I think I just had something weird in my throat, actually. So Skype must have been doing something weird.
You've gone again.
So, oh, no.
I'll tell you what. Let's see what I can do. I'll tell you what. I'll hang up and come and get you again. Let's go. We'll get him again. Let's see. Here we go. Let's get that back. Sorry about the delay, folks. Although this week, technically, has been a tour de force by comparison to the previous 2 weeks. So something I did obviously made a difference. I stopped sending video back to the Skype participants. I reduced the output size of my switching software. I took all the memory chips out of the Mac and reseated them. So I've done a number of things. And we have Mark again.
Hello.
Yes, go.
Oh, no, fabulous. So what I wanted to say was that somebody I know wants to buy a Yamaha CS80, which of course is a classic synthesizer in this day and age. So if anybody knows...
Oh, man, you've gone again. No, you've totally gone now, Mark. There's nothing. I'm not hearing anything.
How weird.
Yeah, it's... I think you're going to have to unplug your USB device and plug it back in again, because I think what's happened is it just sometimes it does that. So if you unplug that and then get it to go back in again and see what happens. Sorry about this, folks. Of course, if you're watching the live stream, you'll be seeing this all in sort of full, unedited glory. This is the kind of great footage that's sort of behind-the-scenes things that you don't get to see in the when you listen to the MP3 version. Though this version naturally will go up on YouTube, so you will be seeing that, I suppose. So, Mark, have you? How are you? Oh, you've frozen. That's not good.
Have I?
Oh.
Now what's happening?
No, your video. It's just turn your video off. Try that.
Oh, no. Okay. Video's turned off. Has that made any difference?
No. Okay. Just think about how else we can do this.
Antediluvian Skype system.
Antediluvian Skype, yes. Well, actually, that was the one thing there were a couple of titles that I really got. There was one, I Believe in LFOs. I really like Richard's line, 1 or 2 working wah-wahs. That's a great...
I'm just on the phone. I can't...
And what was the other one? There was another one which I've completely forgotten what it was.
Shift happens.
Shift happens, that's right.
I liked How Do You Like Your Eggs?
How do you like your eggs? Where did that come from?
It was early on when we were talking about speakers.
Ah, yes, okay.
How do you like your eggs?
That's a good one too.
And me and Rob GS both said hard-boiled.
Hard-boiled, Richard said hard-boiled. Yeah.
Fertilized.
Ah, yes, no, I used to...
Sunny side up.
Sunny side up, right. Okay. Have we got
Am I
Mark?
still an alien?
Ah, no, you're all right now, Mark.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay. Very quickly then, before I turn into an alien again, I need to find a Yamaha CS80. So if anybody has a CS80 for sale, would they please contact me?
Well, Kent in the chat room, Mr. Spong, is Mr. CS80 Fix It. He might well be able to help you out there. But I did also, somebody pointed out that, I think it was Tony, Mac Doctor, who's helps with the show notes and switching sometimes. He said that the one on eBay just went for $16,000. so they are about the most expensive.
Well, maybe one day Synths will go for that sort of money. I don't know how much money this person's got to buy one for. I imagine
a reasonable amount. If you want one, then you would.
In the chat room, Shane says there's a place in New Jersey that has one.
Three Wave Music in New Jersey has a CS80.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Which I can see that there. So yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're probably. It feels like we're at the point at which we say goodbye to everybody. It feels like we've had It's been nice to not be inundated with terrible technical difficulties, and the stream's been holding up. So I think we've now got a system that's going to be okay. And did I show you my ladder? I'm very proud of it. Look, that's my trussing over there.
I can't see you at all.
Oh, I'm going to switch the video on just for
either.
Okay, I'm going to switch it on now, and then just as a special treat towards the end of the show, so that my participants can see what's coming back at them. Can you see me yet, folks?
No.
Spinning wheel. Okay, that's that's while my Mac probably goes into CPU overdrive. There we go.
There he is.
There we go. There's my. I've hung a ladder as trussing across the width of the room.
I see.
Which,
excellent.
If you buy a tri-truss, it's about, that would have cost about £500 or £600 probably, and that was £60. So that's the kind of saving I like to keep. Anyway, I won't go on about it. Well, I have gone on about it quite a lot actually, but so I probably will.
Do you mean that triangular aluminium stuff? Is that
the tri-truss that has.
You can buy a lectern. You know, like I do public speaking. You can buy a 3-way aluminium tri-truss lectern, right, for speaking. If you buy like a music stand, they're £15. But if you buy the tri-truss lectern, they're about £400.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm just hoping that we're obviously not going to hang anything too heavy on it, but it's just going to be LED lights and the occasional camera. But anyway, I digress. Once again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's been a pleasure and been good to focus on the chit-chat rather than the technical nonsense. So we'll say, first of all, Mr. Gaz Williams from songsurgeon.co.uk, thank you very much for joining us, and we shall see you tomorrow, hopefully, for the next enthralling episode of Sonic Touch. So thank you very much for joining us.
I'm performing tomorrow evening in Bristol, St George's Hall, which is a lovely big venue, with the Ennio Morricone Orchestra, which I'm really looking forward to. Not with Ennio Morricone himself. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, that sounded really deceiving there. Playing the music of Ennio Morricone in an orchestra.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. What great fun.
Yeah. I'm just off now for rehearsal. I've got to be there at 6, so I'm going to have to
brilliant.
chip off now.
All right, cheers, Gaz.
Are you playing bass, Gaz, in that?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Fantastic. Good luck.
Okay.
Wonderful music. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Excellent work. Okay, and we'll also say thank you very much to Rich Hilton there from Connecticut, Hiltonius.com while he's there. Thanks very much for joining us, Rich. And also thanks everybody for all your help and offers of help for alternatives to Skype and trying to debug this. It looks like we've kind of got somewhere we can work with. So thank you very much, everybody. And we'll say goodbye also to PJ Tracy, pjtracymusic.com. Thank you very much for joining us, PJ. Been a pleasure having you aboard.
Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it.
And happy fun times with your continued studio setup. And we're going to be doing some more of that over the next couple of days ourselves as well. So I'm really excited. And also to Mark Tinley, likebeing.com. Where are you, Mark? I'm just looking for a Mark Tinley there. There's Mark. Thank you very much for joining us as well, Mark.
You're very welcome. Sorry I turned into an alien.
That's all right. I believe in LFOs.
Three-Wave Music appear to have sold that CS80, so if anyone hears of another one, please let me know. And tell me, please send me a link to your ladders, because I want to start making, lecterns and selling them for £400, I think.
Oh, really? Well, honestly, it's just Homebase. It's a ladder from Homebase, a two-step, 2.8-metre, two-part ladder that stretches out to 5 metres. That's it.
Oh, right.
That's all it is. So anyway, folks, thank you very much. And I will speak to you again next week, I hope. And we hope to see you in person, PJ.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's it for another week. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. If I put that up there, then it's sort of Sonic Talk 256. Goodbye, and thank you very much.
Over and out.
Goodbye. Hey, Rich, have a great time in Australia.
Oh, yeah, definitely.